By August 1940, all major power blocks in the world have begun military operations. The Reichspakt, victor of the First Weltkrieg and undisputed hegemon, is fighting a war on two fronts. In Europe, the Eastern vassal states have lost significant ground in the opening months, before Imperial German troops arrived at the front lines. The United Baltic Duchy has officially capitulated. All territory north of the Daugava River is under Russian control, while Germany has directly taken over the lines on the left bank. Ukraine continues to falter, and Crimea is besieged. However, Austrian reinforcements of the southern sector aim to stabilize the situation there, while German panzer divisions under General Guderian probe Russian defenses along the line of contact. In the west, the Reichspakt is now embroiled in a second front against the International. The massive power of the German Air Force is focused there, rapidly taking control of the skies over France, and the Austrians have made significant advances into Mussolini's new Italian Socialist Republic, with street fights reported in Venice. At the same time, the international axis is under threat from their own second front in the west. A naval conflict has broken out between the British and French fleets and the old Entente states in both the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, as Canada and the French Republic seek to reinforce their footholds in Europe, Ireland and Portugal, with the eventual goal of retaking their homelands lost to revolution after the previous war. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, the Empire of Japan, which had gotten bogged down in a trench war in China for years, has reopened hostilities against the Reichspakt as well, with naval clashes between the IJN and the German East Asian Navy in the South China Sea. Most of Africa is still under colonial control of Reichspakt and Entente, but the Cairo Pact, loosely aligned with German interests, has been pushed back to the Suez Canal. Should France fall, the full might of the German war machine would turn east and crash into the Russian lines. As such, the clock is ticking for Wrangel's plans. Austrian tanks are beginning to run offensive operations against the Mariupol sector, and it looks like more Austrian troops are arriving here on the lines. So this could still get rather interesting, which means we don't really have time to wait for the big guns to arrive before we begin operations against Sevastopol, because we might need the tanks to reinforce the Mariupol line for potential counterattacks. However, we now actually have supply coming in from the hub here in the south, which means we can, and since we're holding Syczeslaw as well, we should be able to potentially secure the lines here as we go. Kherson would be a major point, but they do have some depth in their supply here. So that's that. It looks like Guderian's tank divisions are moving south towards the Khrushchev sector once more. We're not moving the anti-tank divisions at this point. How are we on 80 guns? We got a very small number of guns available, but not an awful lot. So we'll get there. Still shortages in support equipment. And obviously, tanks themselves are still in very short supply for the Guards divisions and for the actual tank divisions. So since we've got four armored divisions ready to go, I think the first act is going to break the Ukrainians here, then destroy the two Middle Africa divisions that will be cut off, and then move towards Sevastopol. Alternatively, we can just try directly to assault Sevastopol, but I think clearing out the north is probably the better option. So we've got four more tank divisions coming in. They can work their way through as well to secure these lines and approach Sevastopol from the other side. So let's do that. And with that, the tanks crashing into the enemy lines here, into the Ukrainian defenders. Shanghai has joined the war. Oh dear, whatever are we going to do? And we do have to keep an eye on Guderian's tank divisions, which have been rapidly redeployed. So they're not combat ready for a bit. But there is a fair amount of German infantry going around here, which is going to make any kind of offensive operations reasonably difficult. I mean, we do have the Guards divisions of the 8th Army here, but pushing south from here, especially with no supply. The next supply hub would be there. Pushing south here would be rather difficult. So we'll leave that. We'll leave that until we have a better supply situation. Talking about which, the supply situation coming out of the Taurida supply hub is probably not going to be amazing for the tanks either. So we will have to taking Sevastopol is going to be relatively important. So let's breach the Ukrainian lines here first. The Germans are sending troops in to reinforce. We'll see if we can out of Sevastopol, but we got there first. So that means the Middle Africa divisions are cut off. And that potentially, there is the König Bayerische Infanteriedivision is over here. It's actually a marine division, but I think we can. We do have to be somewhat careful here, however. So I'm going to leave one tank division to hold the northern line here. And we get the other 3 to push through. We'll have to make sure that we're not getting cut off from the north here while we're doing these operations. So that means we may be able to break through the exhausted Ukrainian lines relatively quickly, and then go for the throat. In fact, we can actually run a counterattack with the 7th and 2nd against the exhausted Germans in. The exhausted Germans in Sevastopol, the exhausted defenders. And that means if once they lose Sevastopol, we'll be able to push eastwards. There is a naval battle going on at the same time. These are allied submarines that are being hunted here, and not our own. Talking about submarines, the Atlantic Fleet under Admiral Stark is I think, yeah, they're still en route to where are they right now? Okay, so they're moving out through dangerous waters in order to reach the western approaches, and we will have additional submarines from the northern lines here with the 2nd Fleet. Once it is completely, it's actually completely repaired, so we can assign that as well to convoy raiding operations from the friendly ports, which means we can give the Atlantic Fleet a second area to operate. Now, I think the Iberian coast would probably best, because these are the two. Yeah, we'll add that to the operational area of the 2nd Fleet, which means these submarines are they're moving out along the northern lines into the fleet operating areas, and the other ones are moving through as well. Okay, so with that we've got 2 relatively sizable submarine groups. We can probably balance these out a little bit more. So I might get 1, 2, 3 of these assigned to the other one. There we go. Then these are mostly older. A lot of them are older submarines, but they're still perfectly capable of interdicting unescorted convoys in the region. So we will see how well this is going to work. While we are building up a few of the Vitebsk class destroyers in the meantime. All right, and the rest of them is keeping up mining operations. So how is it looking here? Okay, we are getting significant. Okay, the Georgians have actually expanded the lines here, but Pavlograd is under defended. Coming in from if the Austrians are starting to join there as well, so we are going to need to. This is actually less than ideal, because I do not really want to run offensive operations along these lines at this point, because we're stretched too thin. I don't want to have to rely on the Georgians and Azerbaijanis to hold the lines successfully. So for now, we'll just defend whatever territory they're pushing into, but we're not going to do any offensive operations ourselves. We have another event, unfortunately, a critical failure. So we did run an early test on the prototype of the big artillery, and Unfortunately, the barrel has exploded as we have loaded up too much. Too much propellant. We now have the railway gun available, which is going to help assist with operations. And I think the light tanks are going to get through that relatively quickly. And I'm going to be able to take out Sevastopol and deny the enemy that port. Okay, that means we can already begin pushing east as well here. Right, and with that, the last defenders of Sevastopol are being wiped out, and we can already begin sending other divisions east. And the north has been cleared as well, which means the 4th Armored can get back onto the front lines, and now the remaining Ukrainian, 6 Ukrainian divisions and 1 Kenyan division, last defenders at the Kerch Strait, are going to be equally destroyed, and Sevastopol will fall, which means that the Ukrainian navy is now relegated towards Odessa, and that's the last remaining port that they can actually utilize in the Black Sea, and Mykolaiv. So these two. But let's see. The tanks are quickly going to wipe out the remaining divisions here. I think the 3 tank divisions are actually going to be enough, so we can already begin redirecting the rest. Now, where has Guderian brought his panzers? It looks like not all of them. That's not all of them. A few are showing up along the lines in the north here. But no further attacks against Vitebsk, where we have significantly improved the amount of infantry available. And the air war over Ukraine is actually going relatively well. One of the problems that we have is mission efficiency, because while we have the numbers and we have relatively good air detection, we're too far. We're a little too far still. So one of the potential goals would be to capture an airbase. This one's a bit too far. The Kharkiv airbase would be a good position to take. So I think that would be currently held by Polish light tanks and 2 German infantry divisions. I think that would be a good next strategic goal, and then potentially to advance onto Odessa before the Austrians arrive in force here. So let's get the tank divisions that are not necessarily needed already, and assign them for an attack out of Kharkiv into the rear here. And we might be able to shorten the lines as well and take since we're at it, and take the Sumy Poltava line because the army, the Second Army is under strength. So we'll give the operational goal to take the lines between Sumy and Poltava. Let's get these redirected, and we're not going to need the railway guns anymore, so we're going to move that over to Kharkiv as well. So that's going to be the next offensive. Despite the fact that we have the 8th Army here, I don't see that we can run offensive operations here easily. So for now, we'll just hold the lines. We're dug in reasonably well. That would be an airbase as well, however, that we could take. But against 6 Polish infantry divisions, and with Guderian's tanks in the area, I think that would be a bit of a difficult attack, especially that we're still waiting for equipment, and we're still under equipped. So we do have to still be careful with our offensives. Kiev in 30 days. Unlikely, so we're probably going to revert there. But we have made some progress here. Mostly the Georgian divisions have pushed through the relatively undefended lines, and the lines are undefended, but I don't want to overstretch the Second Army because we don't have sufficient manpower in the area. So we would have opportunities here to break through the lines in the rear towards Odessa as well. That's going to be the secondary target, I think. What's the supply situation? We have the Sichuslav supply hub, so getting the rest of the tanks. Maybe we'll do that actually as the primary target. So we would get these tank divisions onto the Sitchislav front, and simply break out towards Mykolaiv, cut off the southern part, and then threaten Odessa. And the second one, the other tanks can move north towards Kharkiv once that's done. All right, and that means also we're going to get the railway gun here in order to support that offensive. Thin lines on all sides, but we do have to be a little careful. Now we also do need to defend Sevastopol. So do we still have? We've got 10, so we can include Crimea at this point. And now I think we're pretty much tapped on that. All right. So the rest of the tanks are going to deal with the last remaining Ukrainians. That is also going to free up the troops from the 10th Army, which can go to reinforce the 2nd, which is under strength here. So it'll free up a few divisions. Talking about freed up divisions, there is not necessarily there's not necessarily a naval invasion happening anymore, so we might be able to, at the very least, get these troops to exercise. We just have to keep an eye. If we get any intel of future naval invasions, then we might have to we'll have to stop and get the troops to dig in again. Naval combat in the Black Sea and Eastern North Sea is on very low supply. Yes, as the submarines make their way through the dangerous territory here, and the English Channel towards the operational bases. All right, we'll take the safer route in the north and avoid the English Channel. And with that, just to make sure that we're not running into any kind of German raiders. And with that, we should be making our way into the Scottish base of Lanark, from which on we're going to start operating. We're going to start operations off the coast here. All right. I think the French are well done. The French lines are relatively stable by the looks of it in the north. It's the Italians that I'm more concerned about, because Venice is about to fall. And if the Austrians are making their way through and defeating Mussolini, then the French have a second front in the south that they need to deal with. But we will see how that goes. That's not our battle. We are just engaged in defeating the last remaining Ukrainians in Crimea, and that is not going to take very long. Sporadic counterattacks now from concentrated Austrian tank forces. We're struggling to deal damage to these. They're not as well armored by far, not as well armored, not as high quality as the German ones. But we do have green air over Ukraine, that we have enjoying a 1-2 aerial superiority at this point. And it looks like there's still some German fighters up in the air, but most of them are more locals or colonials, and the quality of their pilots and aircraft is not quite the same as ours. So now we can support that from the other side, and now we have the last stand of the Ukrainians. The last stand of the Ukrainians in Crimea at Kerch. 4 divisions are encircled and are about to surrender to Russian light tanks. Pushing forward, and with that, I think the war in Ukraine is continuing as it has to, because we are again a bit of a timer here, and the Austrian reinforcements that we've been concerned about haven't really materialized. I thought we would be seeing more Austrian divisions showing up here. And there's probably a good reason for that, because the Serbians, although defeated in the Weltkrieg and occupied by Austria for almost a decade, were not crushed forever. Having defeated their enemies in Bulgaria and retaken Montenegro and Macedonia, the Serbian Republic looked towards the southern Slavic lands of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Alongside their allies in Romania and Eastern Europe, the Serbians have now issued Austria-Hungary with an ultimatum to turn over all of their claimed territories to them. The monarchy was naturally refusing, and so the Austrians are once again at war with Serbia. Only time will tell if they will prevail once again or if the empire will collapse beneath the weight of its internal and external enemies. So that is interesting, because that means that the Belgrade Pact, which I thought was still at war with the Greek. Yes, they still are at war with Greece, but apparently they believe that they can open another front against the United States of Greater Austria, and that is certainly an interesting development. Does that mean that we can invite anybody onto our side? No, but it does mean that. The Austrians now have better things to do than support Ukraine, which is great, because our overall goal is to reduce the size of the front line on the Reichspakt. Ideally, if France falls, and if the International is defeated, ideally we would reduce the Reichspakt lines somewhere around Königsberg, Odessa, or if we take Odessa, Königsberg, Lvov or Brest-Litovsk, like this sort of line here, because that would be much easier to defend, a much shorter front line, and that would bring us into, well, almost a direct view of Warsaw, Berlin. Sweden, a different question. Somebody else a Norway problem, and we'll let them do. I'm not sure what Finland is up to at this point. They are. We're guaranteeing their independence. So if they decide that they eventually want to join on our side, as long as they remain neutral, everything on our side is good. All right, we've got the 3rd Submarine Brigade of the Atlantic Fleet now starting convoy raiding operations in the western approaches, and. We'll soon see if we can intercept some Entente shipping here, or if since we're not at direct war with the Entente, that is if that is ineffective, we might begin mine laying operations instead. So the Reichspakt is now quite under pressure from all sides. Right, the tank divisions are moving towards the front line. And then from there we'll begin operations. Westwards towards Mykolaiv and then Odessa. But first, let's deal with the last stand of the Ukrainians here. And the integration has been completed. Samarkand is now a core of the Russian Empire. Perfect. So that means some of the integratable territories are. Why is this? Okay, not sure what happened there, but once they reach 80% compliance, then they actually will become core states of Russia. So we are beginning to integrate. We are going to be beginning to integrate these territories, and that is still a little higher resistance than I would have liked. Do we not have martial law? Mountain Republic, Ukraine is under martial law, as it should be. So is Estonia and Latvia. Now, why are we having so high? Why are we having such a high resistance target? Okay, it's organized. It's resistance spread from Crimea, and it's organized partisans. 80%. Okay, we're not having much of the garrison fulfillment as well at the moment. They're organized partisan cells, so stay behind organizations from the Ukrainians and probably from Germany. And with that, however, we have now dealt with the last stand of the Ukrainians, and Crimea is under Russian control, which means that their fleet operations are significantly hampered. And we can get these divisions onto that should be this line. Yeah, 3 divisions of the 6th Army. Okay, so we're getting these armored divisions north, and we can dissolve the 10th Army and reinforce the 2nd Army, which is somewhat under strength at this point. So okay, that's 1 too many. So we've got 1 extra, and I don't really have. Yeah, okay. We'll send one of the extra guards divisions into the 12th, and we'll change that into a. Do we have enough? We need a bit more anti-tank guns, but we'll get there. So we'll already change them. So that will become one of the additional anti-tank divisions, giving us a bit more. More firepower here, and that also means we can extend the line towards potentially to cover more ground here. All right, so tanks are moving, and we will begin operations against exhausted Ukrainian forces once the tanks are there. Okay, Cuba, Netherlands, Sweden. Okay, it's still the same, but interesting. But by the looks of it. With the joining of the Belgrade Pact on our side, we now actually have a numerical superiority, and the losses on the enemy side are certainly beginning to mount, especially on the Ukrainian. The Ukrainian losses are quite dramatic. So once the tanks arrive here in force, then we can begin begin operations. And it is official. The Reichspakt and the Entente will cooperate. After meeting in a conference in the Canadian city of Halifax, representatives from the Entente and the Reichspakt have worked out a deal to cooperate in their war against the Third International. The main terms of the deal involve both sides having military and naval access to the other, but more importantly, the German Empire has agreed that once the syndicalists have been beaten, they will take no territory in France or Great Britain, and thus allow both the French and British exiled governments a swift return to Europe. Sources at the Halifax conference say that the Germans elicited a host of promises from Entente leaders, though it remains to be seen whether, once the war is done, should they prove victorious, either side ultimately intends to keep them. So that means, well, we're not technically at war with the Entente. We should be, and I'm not sure why we are having such a low efficiency in this area. We should be able to do this. Not entirely certain what the problem is. The friendly submarine divisions. They're just not in place yet. Oh, they got intercepted off the coast, or in the North Sea. So it looks like 2 Russian submarines have been sunk. And that is a what is this? Is it a Norwegian? Yeah, I think it's a Norwegian group that is in a battle with a Dutch force, as well as some German battleships under Erich Raeder, and our submarines have gotten caught up in this. That is very unfortunate. I hope most of our submarines can make it out, and can get out of there before being sunk by enemy destroyers. But it looks like, two submarines have been sunk. The rest of them, I think, is going to be able to make it out of there without further losses. So that's unfortunate that we got caught up in this, and we have lost 2. The rest of the submarines are still en route, and they're going to take the northern route as well. It's just that the submarines from these operations here had to go through the North Sea. There's really nothing else they could do. All right, back to the war on the ground, where we do have 5 tank divisions now ready. So we'll see what is the ideal route is. Probably how heavily fortified is this? This forest here in Sigislav is unfortified. There are some fortifications in the north, so we can breach the fortifications and then or we can move through the unfortified territory and then see that we can encircle. We'll see how far we get. If we can make it all the way to Mykolaiv, we could encircle the whole group here, but that would be ambitious, especially that we don't have sufficient infantry support just yet. We just have additional infantry arriving. We might... how big are the fortifications here? That's level 2. That's all level 2 fortifications. But we might be able to cut that a little short. So let's see. For now, we'll head for the city of Kryvyi and see that we can break through that. Now we have support from the heavy guns, so that should help also deal with the fortifications. And we actually have aerial superiority over the area, which means that enemy bombing runs or enemy bombing attempts against our troops should be significantly disrupted. We're enjoying a 1-to-4, more over the period, probably a 1-to-2 kill death ratio with the fighters, and we have shot down a significant number of bombers, which is good news. But also the Ukrainian cruisers here still continue to operate with impunity, which is irritating to say the least. However, we only have some old cruisers and destroyers that I do not think we can risk in a fight against, or that we want to risk in a fight against the Ukrainians. Let's see. So we do have the Admiral Lazarev. That is an old heavy cruiser, which has some torpedo capabilities. We've got the Svetlana, which is mostly a mine layer, honestly, but has some attack capabilities. We've got the Oleg, which is a Bogatyr class, also a mine layer with limited firepower. And we've got some old Novik class destroyers, which are just very basic torpedo boats. And we have some Gnevny class destroyers, which are slightly better, but still not very capable. We'd be fielding 2 light cruisers, 10 destroyers, and 1 heavy cruiser, going up against 9 destroyers and 2 light cruisers. We might be able to take them. I think it is time for Admiral Kolchak to make a decision. He has we're going to give him the cruiser captain, which is going to give him improved. Yeah, which is going to give him improved values. Now we haven't done much in terms of doctrine, and we haven't kept up with the naval research, but then probably neither have the Ukrainians. So we are going to attempt to send 13 ships out in support of the Georgian submarines against the 11 enemy ships, and we will see if that naval battle is going to go in our favor. So these should technically sail out. They're still docked. Can we get them to actually? Get them to sail out? We'll see if they still join. They will still have to collect their forces, but we'll see if they will join in. In the meantime, I will have a look at the war on land, where we are relatively easily breaking through the Ukrainian defenders here, who don't really have much of a recourse on against light tanks. No attacks from the German armored divisions. There seem to be. I'm not sure if they're moving along the front lines here now, together with maybe they're trying to join the Austrians, but I don't know what Guderian's plan is at this point. He's probably looking for opportunities, but we have not. They've definitely moved off the Vitebsk front. We have the battle result from the North Sea, where 2 Russian submarines have been sunk, unfortunately. But we always knew it was a risky path, and they're going to make their way through the. Ideally, they wouldn't make their way not through the English Channel, but they're there already, so I think there's little that they can do. It's a channel dash, and we'll see if they can get through. So We shall see if the Black Sea Fleet can get combat ready in time to begin taking on the Ukrainian forces, and they should be able to. It could be that that the risk is. We're going to go for high risk and see if we're going to engage. Always engage. Okay. Still not. We will see if the ships can get ready in time to attack. Meanwhile, yeah, the tanks have broken through. The Ukrainians have thrown some light tanks in a last-ditch attempt to defend the area, but we have broken through already. So I think we'll be taking out the Ukrainian forces. Yeah, German tanks are positioning together with Austrian tanks near Bryansk again, but they'll be facing the full might of the 8th. So I don't think they'll be running any kind of attempts there. Meanwhile, we've completed excavation 1, which is good news. We do need to. We do need to get the cavity magnetron researched to improve our radar coverage. So that is something that's been outstanding for a while, and we are still 5 days away from the improved artillery. That's when we can build better tanks, or at least plan better tanks. And we have the Admiral's Shipyard, I believe, is what it's called. That's the one that we're currently using, yeah, for the ships. All right. So, what have we taken so far? I think there was something about collaboration or something. So we've got we got a fun bonus to random MIO, or we could get speed. And that's the same thing. This one. Can't remember what the rationale was here, but I think that's probably doesn't really matter. I think any of the ones that actually improve the ships is a good one. Surface detection, hit points, or speed, or light piercing. Light piercing is probably not a problem because we're mostly dealing with destroyers here, which have no armor. So I'm going to go for speed, and we'll be saving up our naval XP. That said, we can take another land doctrine, the forward observers, which is going to get a 2% reinforcement, which is great. So that's a good one. And with that, still no move from the Black Sea Fleet into to actually join the battle here. So. Oh no! It looks like Admiral Kolchak has given orders to sail. We're going to go back to medium risk here, but with that, the Black Sea Fleet has come to the aid of friendly submarines, and we've got the Admiral Lazarev opening up, facing two Ukrainian cruisers, 17 destroyers. Okay, significantly larger number of destroyers than we had originally anticipated. So this might be a harder fight than we thought, because they only had 9 destroyers in the area, but the Ukrainians have sent reinforcements, and with that, the Admiral might have a harder time. So can we get the submarines? To engage as well? We're going to give them the same mission. We'll see if we can get the submarines to assist, which is high risk against the destroyers. But we'll see how this goes. For now, the opening shots will be fired, and it looks like the Ukrainians or some of the Ukrainian destroyers are retreating, including the light cruisers. Not much yet on Not much yet. Nobody seems to have landed any significant hits yet. But I think the command to the submarines has not gone through. They're too far away. They're still disengaging. And okay, I think somebody, two of the destroyers might have taken some light damage. Yeah, some of the Ukrainian destroyers have taken some hits, and it looks like the Ukrainians are disengaging. Actually, in fact, one of the Ukrainian destroyers has been sunk with a torpedo attack. So our first launch of the first torpedo launch has been successful. However, it looks like the destroyer Letun has taken quite significant damage from gunfire. That's probably the cruisers retreating here, and we'll see how much more damage we can do on the retreat, and if we can sink some more ships before they can disengage. But that's a lot of enemy destroyers, and that was a lucky torpedo hit. So we will have to see. How that goes. The Letun is listing heavily, and so far the Admiral Lazarev is in good shape, and the Hetman Petro Doroshenko, the light cruiser, has taken some minor hits, but other than that, every Ukrainian ship seems to be in good shape. The Proskuriv has been hit by the Lazarev's guns and has taken some severe damage, so we might be able to get a second destroyer out here. But so far no other losses reported. The submarines have disengaged, so we'll change their orders back to normal. Just a quick look. The Letun is leaking heavily and is drawing the fire. Svetlana has taken a torpedo hit and is taking on water as well. The Ukrainian light cruisers so far are mostly undamaged. So we are now in the pursuit phase. We're taking quite a bit of damage here ourselves, but we'll see if we can manage to catch another destroyer or if the Letun is going to sink. The Letun is now turning about, trying to escape, and Svetlana is in rough shape after another torpedo hit, and I think she will probably be forced to retreat relatively soon as well. Minor damage on the enemy light cruiser, and the destroyers are mostly enemy destroyers are mostly intact. So since we're not really able to deal with the large number of enemy destroyers, we're not able to break through their lines that easily. And with that, I think Admiral Kolchak has given the order to retreat as well. The Ukrainians are disengaging, we are disengaging, and only two destroyers, the Rezvi and the Gremyashi, are still actively operating, despite having taken minor damage. But we have, in the end, only one ship so far has been sunk, and that is the Ukrainian destroyer. Few others have been damaged. Some of their destroyers have taken heavy to average damage, but none of them has been sunk so far. And it looks like everyone is going to disengage from this. So we're relatively evenly matched in this operation, but we're going to have to go through a lengthy repair phase now at this point. I think once that battle is over and the last ships have disengaged, then again, the lucky torpedo hit on the Zabiaka, from the Zabiaka on the Sevastopol has managed to get the only kill in this naval operation. So with that, we're going to have to get the submarines in that fleet back into mine laying, and they should not engage. And we're going to have to get the Black Sea fleet under repair. so everything needs to get repaired. So the Letun has taken the most damage, but 2 torpedo hits on the Svetlana have not been without effect either. So I would say it's a draw probably. But meanwhile, the tank operations have been relatively successful, which means we can push further towards Mykolaiv, send some reinforcements out, and then cut off the enemy lines there, really, because that would trap the 11th Kampffahrjäger Division, the Battle Drive Hunter Division. I love that name. Get them out there. Meanwhile, the tanks in the north have arrived near Kharkiv and can begin the attack as well on the enemy airbase. So we'll get the infantry of the 7th Army to assist, and with that we should have sufficient firepower. Okay, the Serbian Republic is asking for a non-aggression pact. I can accept that. We have the first reports from the Atlantic Fleet. So we have sunk two Cuban convoys, probably troop transports to reinforce shipping. Unfortunately, another Russian submarine has been sunk by German destroyers in the Channel. So the Channel Dash has brought in some losses, but we're still moving submarines through, and we have the first success from our Atlantic operations in support. It looks like the Germans have begun the attack. Yes, Guderian is back on the attack. Actually, Höppner, under orders from Guderian, is crashing into the lines near Bryansk, and we do actually have an anti-tank division in place here. That isn't actually currently engaged, and it's also relatively low on organization. So that's something we need to keep an eye on. There is an Austrian counterattack here, but I think that can be pushed back from the Kraftfahrjäger Division. And at the same time, we are running the armored offensive here towards Mykolaiv, and see if we can rapidly crush through their lines. Despite whatever is going on, the 12th Olympic Games were planned to be held in Tokyo, yet circumstances have brought about their cancellation. As the Empire of Japan has found itself at war, funds for hosting the Games have been unavailable, while concerns over the safety of the athletes have been raised. For the first time since the Great War, the Olympics are cancelled. The Japanese government has attempted to lobby the International Olympic Committee to host the next set of games, yet it is unclear if the Games will survive past the crisis. Crisis indeed. We have potentially aircraft that we can, because this fight is taking place in the Russian air zone. So we have some old close support wings that we can actually redeploy, and that we can use to support this battle here. All right, let's see if we can keep using the momentum to push through the enemy lines here towards Mykolaiv, or if we have to, if that would be a bridge too far. It is I would say a daring attempt. We get another tank division through. It's a daring attempt to take the enemy port behind their lines and make our way through to cut off a significant portion of the Ukrainian-Austrian positions here. All right, for now we will have to be on the defense. However, we are sending additional tanks over, but have the aircraft arrived? Yes. So that means we should now be able to start bombing the enemy tanks. Because we do have some aerial superiority here. The 130th Smolensk Guards Division is attempting to assist with the defense here as well, but we may need additional troops from the surrounding areas to hold the line here against that armored spearhead. Yes, there's another attack east, but it looks like it's a diversion. And we have a second success against Cuban ships. So there are definitely our submarines are definitely starting to make a difference. This is just some crazy Azerbaijanis trying to push the lines, but Bryansk is sort of part of the problem here. The Smolensk guards have been pushed back, and we'll give them a temporary line here, so they can reinforce the embattled troops that are coming under severe attack by the German tank forces in the north. Meanwhile, the battle for Mykolaiv is ongoing, with the 7th Armored pushing west, while the other two are holding off against a Ukrainian counterattack. Okay, Bukhara has been cored as well, which is good news, and we will see. We'll see if we can manage to hold the line in the north here against the very determined German assault from Guderian's troops here. We can also send additional divisions from the 8th over to maybe not all of them to support the defense. A relatively desperate defense, but it is what it is. A Dutch convoy has been sunk as well. This was probably a trading convoy, and we're hunting 2 more Cuban convoys. So I think the submarine operations are beginning to make a difference potentially, and help in the war in the Atlantic to prevent Entente reinforcements to reach the European theater. Meanwhile, the Serbians are actually making progress, to be honest. The United States of Greater Austria are buckling under the assault here. They probably hadn't expected the attack and had only lightly defended the lines. This might actually save the Italians, which have held Venice, and potentially the French, whose lines are buckling rather rapidly under the. I think that problem is probably the aerial assault here from a relatively large number of the German Air Force. So they are completely concentrating on this area now, and northern France Northern France is a relatively critical part of the whole operation. So if Paris falls, which after the breakthrough towards Amiens here, starting to look increasingly likely, then if France falls, then Spain is in trouble. Despite our attempts at holding off Entente reinforcements, and that would potentially collapse the Western Front. So this is something that we'll have to keep a very close eye on. It looks like the Persians have made it across the Suez Canal, which is good news, and we are battling to use the fact that the Austrians are now distracted as an opportunity to further breach positions in Ukraine, while holding off the German armored attack in the north, and at the same time taking off enemy air bases, and then we'll potentially attempt to collapse the southern part as well. Again, Kiev is not going to fall in time, not in 19 days. That's very unlikely, especially with the German armored spearhead being here. But we can shorten the lines in the south and potentially threaten Odessa, which would remove the Ukrainian Navy from the situation. We have Sevastopol now under our control, which means the Navy can have necessary repair operations enacted relatively rapidly. All right, last thing we're going to be doing for today, we have the improved medium howitzer. We're still working on the improved heavy cannons. That's still 35 days away. So we're going to do the artillery, not the tank. The question is, what are we going to do research-wise? We have a few things that need doing. On the tank front, improved engines maybe, but we can also begin we can begin the research of these super heavy tanks, which is the next thing we need to do. On the air side, I think we're good until 1944. And here we are researching the radar tech that has been pending for so long. And here we are good as well. So I think that the question becomes, do we want to... we have some research bonuses here, but I don't really feel... I think we have so many things to research that I don't really want to go for ahead of time, much at least. There are a few things that we could do, but I think the super heavy tanks are not going to get into production anytime soon. So getting these is still going to take a year, however, to research. And in a year, we might be in a better position. So that may be something that we could do. Alternatively, get through some of the lagging infantry research. That would be also an option. Given that we're mostly on infantry, I think we're doing this first, and this is going to get us ahead, which means we now have the Obukov MIO to deal with, which we are using for pretty much everything. So we've taken these already, so it's either resource need or conversion speed. I don't think we are particularly short on any resources on these. Not really. So conversion speed would be the better option, or we start working on the other ones. So this would be air attack and soft attack on the towed anti-air. Can we get air attack and hard attack? Yes. We have used the anti-air guns quite a bit in. We've used the anti-air guns quite a bit in operations against tanks. So that would be that, which means we now need to actually upgrade the 25mm AA, which is going to get the 22 hard attack and piercing, but at a cost of higher production. So we'll do that, reopen it, and then replace it. Improved anti-air, there we go. Okay, so that's the 72PA, P-A. So we'll have some better opportunities here. And we can then design ourselves a new self-propelled artillery. I'm with the flame tanks. I'm actually probably just going to stick with the KHT-100 for now. But we can get the Su-14s discontinued, and where is the improved heavy tank? There it is, the Vityaz chassis. All right, so with that, we can now. I'm just pre-producing the self-propelled artillery. They'll be useful everywhere. They can start being used in guards divisions as well for additional firepower. But primarily they will be for actual heavy tank divisions. So they would use a heavy fixed superstructure. We could do a medium fixed superstructure as well. That would actually be 3 defense. The heavy fixed superstructure is the same thing. Production cost 5. We're not using the heavy howitzer because we don't have it. Because right now we only have the basic heavy cannon. We're gonna be using the improved medium howitzer here, which means we don't need the heavy superstructure. Okay, we're actually short on military on Army XP, so can't save that design because I had to actually boost the engine a fair bit because that thing is significantly heavier than the Su-14M. But it does boast improved, obviously improved soft attack, improved and significantly improved armor at a bit slower speed, but it is a hulking monster, this thing. So that is going to that is going to have to wait until we have sufficient army experience around. Anyway, the war is continuing, and while France still stands, the French front is a bit crumbling. However, the entry of the Balkans against the United States of Greater Austria is making a significant difference now, and we'll use that. We'll use these multiple fronts to work our way through Ukraine, and if we can manage to push the enemy back sufficiently, then shorten the lines, even if it's just the Kiev-Odessa line, then I think we're in a much better position defensively in case France falls and the Reichspakt is going to shift its air force east, because they have currently committed a large number of aircraft to that front, which leaves us relatively much in control of the skies over Ukraine.